Can I see hers?
I'm going to call the meeting to order. If you all please stand and join in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll make a motion to set the agenda. Are there any additions or corrections you have? Jack?
There's a motion to accept the consent agenda.
Yes.
I will second that motion. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Liquor licenses.
None.
No liquor licenses. Okay. Public comments. Anybody have any public comments? All righty. So Board of Supervisor Committee / meeting updates. Lonnie is gone today. His daughter has a track meet in Red Oak. For my meeting updates, I didn't have a lot of meetings last week, it being the end of the month. I had a conference though today in Des Moines, the Iowa Public Health Association conference. Had an interesting seminar about rural vitality, how we can make sure that rural areas have the healthcare access that they need. I enjoyed that, and actually I'll be driving up there after this meeting to go back to the conference for the next few days. That's all I have.
Had a meeting last week, our first one. We're gonna try and have regular meetings on opioid. We invited a lot of people to come to it, especially those that are handling opioid products and things, products, what you wanna call them, but we're getting money from the settlement that was done by the state a few years ago. And where we can spend this money is pretty precise. The sheriff was there. We had a officer from the city. And some of the things that they brought up, for instance, I didn't know, but they have opioid gloves that they have to wear constantly, when they stop someone. So we could be buying them with this money, and there's some other things that we're finding out that we can be paid for, save the taxpayers dollars on that part. I also had my last mental health meeting yesterday for this region. It was 9 counties that was put together 12 years ago. And we had a governing board that was taking care of that. Now we're going to region areas. We're going to Suzanne Watson is our lead person, will be taking over. Let's see, there's 26 counties in our area. We took over area 1 and area 4. We go from the Minnesota border to the Missouri border and almost come down to Pot County We lack one tier of counties going to 35. So right now they have 15 people that think they can cover this area. So it's gonna be very interesting, folks. And yet the state still doesn't have everybody in place to take care of the people. If you call in, you could be put on hold, or they will tell you, well, we have no one to respond right now. I don't know. I just hope that they get things figured out and do a better job for our people. That's all I have.
Thank you, Richard. All right, Jacob. First item on the agenda, driveway variance for lot 17 in Woodfield subdivision.
Okay, this is a pretty straightforward variance. This is just for the width. Our ordinance declares that residential driveway only to be 24 foot wide. Being that they want to build a rather large house, it's a 3 or 4 car garage, and they would like to install a driveway that's 32 feet wide with 3 foot flares on each end, making a total of the street 38 feet wide. Foreman's reviewed this, looked at this. It really doesn't cause any issues for us. Snowplow maintenance, there's no sight distance or safety issues with this. I think it makes, more sense. We have that 24 foot, more for out in the county, but in the subdivision and the way it works out, I don't see any issues with it. So that's what this variance is for, is to go beyond that 24 foot wide requirement.
Okay. Due to the engineer's recommendation, I'd make a motion that we approve the variance for lot 17 in Woodfield subdivision.
I will second that motion. There's a motion and a second to approve the driveway variance for lot 17 in the Woodfield subdivision. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Sign the final plans for 360th Street box culvert replacement. Okay, tell us about this, Jake.
The culvert?
Yeah.
All right. Let me give you a signature here. Yeah. Good. All right, next thing, 360th Street box culvert. This is something that we've had in the works for a number of years, actually. It was identified under a different grant program. It was not able to be completed, and that grant for the money ran out. We found a little bit different opportunity for funding source, so we did receive $180,000 from Hungry Canyon Alliance going towards this project. Total project estimate is right around $480,000. We have a total of $600,000 local money budgeted. So with the help of that Hungry Canyon's money coming in, that'll save us a lot of money. We were held up quite a bit on the U.S. Army Corps permit for this, pushed us back about a month. Finally, we have everything in line, everything in order, fully designed, all the permits in place. So all that's left is sign this, and then we'll get it out for a local letting. We'll set the letting date for April 22nd. Open the bids then, select a contractor, work the contract, and hopefully get construction by mid-May started. So this is on 360th Street, just north of Donner Ave, about half a mile.
Okay. I'd make a motion that we accept the final plans for 360th Street box culvert replacement.
I will second that motion. We have a motion and a second to sign the final plans for the 360th Street box culvert replacement. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Where do I need to sign? What you need to sign this too? Yeah. Hey, folks, I don't really like that we're having a meeting on April Fools, like this is all some sort of joke. General discussion.
All right. 2 items have for general discussion. Received some great news. We put together an application. Kevin Mayberry put together an application, submitted to the DOT
HSIP funding is what we're going after for highway safety implementation program or improvement. We just found out that we were awarded $500,000 towards the safety improvement on L63. It's a project we have in the design phase right now. That's the main street going through Malvern, so right at the south city limits of Malvern. And then going south all the way down to Paddock Ave, we're gonna be resurfacing that. Construction will probably be late summer of 2026. And so we received $500,000 going towards the widening and overlay of that project. So really excited about that. News coming in. Second, this week we got interviews lined up for our open grader position and mechanic 2 position. So hopefully some good candidates come out of that and make a selection soon to fill those empty spots. So.
Mechanic 2 position has been open for a while now, hasn't it?
Yep, officially March 7th, but we were advertising about a month before that.
Yep.
So,
Well, it's exciting that we got somebody who's,
yep, we got someone
the
looking
interview's great.
pretty good, and hopefully interview goes well too. So,
Yeah. I don't have anything for him. Do you, Richard?
Nope.
Appreciate you,
all
sir.
right,
Thank you very much.
You guys want me to stick around for anything?
Well, I don't think so. I don't see anything else.
Yeah.
Did you have a question for me? I was gonna talk about his assistant.
Oh, yeah, you
Okay.
can stay.
All right.
All right. Let's see, Greg. Got to come out from the back.
Was on camera back there.
Hire of a new deputy. Talk us through it, sir.
Well, in a nutshell, looking at what we put together for last year's budget and what we're looking at for next year's budget, I'm pretty confident, very confident that we can hire another deputy. You know, some of the things that we've been pushing forward to help increase our coverage throughout the county, put more deputies on the road. Where we're at, I'm very confident we can do that. That's one of the things we stressed when we went through that budgeting process.
To get another deputy.
Yep.
I think a lot of people forget, I know I've told you this story before, but when my brother was a deputy and he had a call to the adult entertainment venue, northwest side of the county, up in the corner, and he was there was 5 different party buses. It was at night. He was the only deputy that was on patrol. He was the only one in the entire county, 5 different party buses. Shots broke out. People were shooting at the tires of the buses. People were shooting at each other. He was the only one in a crowd of 150 people trying to take care of it. So we need to make sure that we have backup for our deputies and that our deputies know that when they call for help and when they call for assistance, that somebody comes. So I have no problem with getting you a new deputy since we have the money left over in this year's budget and we should be able to budget for it next year. It's been needed for a while.
Agreed.
I'll make a motion to hire the new deputy. When will he take place and stuff?
We've been in contact with civil service to make sure that we have a we opened up last year for resignation. We still have 2 on that list. We'd like to actually bring in a certified officer from somewhere else.
So we don't have
possible.
to send them to school.
Correct. So I'd send them to the academy. Speaking with Civil Service Commission, sounds like we're going to be allowed to, through the attorney, we're going to be allowed to reopen that and then take certified applicants only. We'd like to do that. If that's the case, we'll probably start advertising. It may take a month and a half to 2 months to get that person on.
Will he, if he comes in certified, he doesn't have to go to the academy or anything?
Correct. Yep, correct.
Good.
I will second Richard's motion. There is a motion and a second to hire a new deputy for the Mills County Sheriff's Office. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. General discussion, sir.
Next week I'm gonna bring to you, we had a design, just for the annual concern. And that was, So, nothing else there. We're in the process of taking applications for that position already from a previous resignation, so, look for two, so I won't. But I'll be on next week's agenda.
Thank you, sir. I don't have anything for you, Greg. Richard? Nope. Thank you, sir.
I'll be around.
I like the cowboy hat picture, by the way.
Oh, Greg, did you get notified from Megan for the opioid or not? If not, I'll get the information to you.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I did. I guess I can touch on this really quick. I know during that meeting, and Josh was there in my place. During that meeting, we talked about the sheriff's app, which the opioid funding can be used for. The sheriff app. I'm gonna bring a presentation for you as well next week. It'll be much shorter than the one that Josh and I just recently got through. But it looks like it's a fantastic way to get information out in a hurry. You'll have a quick tab on it. It's a free app to everybody else. The county would pay for it using the opioid funds with aforementioned. You can go in their store, download the app, and then we can push out information through that app. You can do an inmate search. You can do, we haven't decided if we're gonna pay the extra for the warrant searches. We just have a most wanted list that we would publish weekly. But it would also have then quick link for an opioid assistance, whether that be through Hartford County Services or whether it's through, as you mentioned, the region that's now going to be the.
Yeah.
That's something that we can work towards and get the information.
And once it's paid for, we have, I think it's $5,000 a year to
Correct, and that would
stay
be,
with it.
yeah, that continued maintenance or subscription fee would continue to be paid for that through the opioid.
By the opioid. And there's only so many stuff we can use the opioid settlement funds for,
Correct.
and that'd be great for the community. I'm all for it. Sounds like Richard is. The only concern I have is I don't know if Bonnie is all for it because she's probably gonna be on the most wanted list, aren't you, Bonnie?
Don't be saying that to people.
I thought maybe you needed help with the app. I was gonna call my daughter to help you get that down.
No, well, thank you. All right. Amber, set public hearing for budget adoption.
Yep, so asking you to accept the public hearing for our budget adoption, for April 22nd. I can get it to the paper or.
And this is for the upcoming fiscal year.
Yes.
Okay. I'll make a motion setting a public hearing on April 22nd at 8:20 a.m. in the boardroom, right?
Yes.
I will second Richard's motion. We have a motion and a second to set the public hearing for fiscal year 2025, 2026 budget on April 22nd at 8:20 a.m. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Motion passes. Discussion, formal action, Emergency Medical Service Advisory Council. John? Matt, why don't you come up too?
Thanks for the invitation. Amber.
You're welcome.
So from my understanding is you guys requested for this to be on the agenda for today?
Yes.
Okay,
Well, with Richard's assistance.
yep. Talk us through it.
Well, you guys wanted to know a little bit about, is this an essential service or not? So I thought I'd bring some challenges forward. You're aware of what we're going through, boots on the street. Number one is the lack of volunteers. Time is a big factor for us. An EMT class right now costs $1,500. It takes 4 to 6 months. That's before we can do anything. Now, if we're gonna be a paramedic, that's $8,000 in a year. The continual changes in state requirements for in-service training, education, with no financial assistance anymore from the state is also becoming challenges. State's not making it easy for us to continue down this path. They used to provide stipends and they used to provide funding for education for EMS. No longer. Sustainability is another problem. If somebody does take the challenge and they do move forward and they get on and start volunteering their services, they don't realize the time commitment that it takes after they sign that paper. The conditions that they have to adhere to, again, we're talking about that there's only 3 rescue squad services left in this county. So Christmas, Easter, Thanksgiving, severe weather, blizzards tend to escalate our calls for service. Family issues.
Special events.
Exactly. Family issues. You know, am I gonna go on this call or am I gonna take my family on vacation? Birthdays, anniversaries, sporting events, recitals, vacations, they all have an impact. It makes a severe impact. And pretty soon it starts putting stress on the individual. And this is when we start losing people. The family pressures take them away. And you still have to maintain your mandated training after all that. But I want you to understand the volunteers in this room right now and the others who aren't here that volunteer have said yes to all these restrictions and all this training, all this stress they've said yes to, and they're doing fine. Doing a great job. But their other challenges are costs. A cardiac monitor now is $65,000. A stretcher system for a rescue squad is $73,000 as of today. Ambulances are upward to $400,000 and a waiting list of 2 to 3 years.
And that's nothing in it. That's just.
That's it. It's a
That's
box
just a
and a
box.
truck.
That's the vehicle.
That's the vehicle. Medical equipment that we have to purchase now to maintain our standards and to maintain protocols are becoming unmanageable. Fundraisers, again, this is another big topic. Let's have a fundraiser. So if we have a fundraiser and we raise $2,000, say at a chili supper, that's a lot of money for people to contribute. So we can buy 2 batteries with that, $2,000. 2 batteries. We were talking about medical equipment. But our income, this is where it gets tricky. We're relying on some billing, donations, memorial, fundraising, and grants. And really, it's hard to build a budget when you don't have a substantial income flow. And none of these are sustainable. We could go 6 months without any income at all. Fundraising is a separate challenge requiring more time. So if you want to have a fundraiser, you want to make the guys make the calls, or do you want to have them at the station making a fundraiser or going to a civic event to do that? Do I make the run or do I miss work? And that's another problem. Some employers are not favorable to volunteer fire and rescue personnel. They don't give them a break. They'll dock them for pay. Some of them can even get disciplined. And a reminder that our average run is between 2 and 2.5 hours. That's the average run. There are miles on our squads. We can run from 40 miles to 100 miles per call. We've got to run down towards Hastings, or we got to go to Omaha. That's 100 miles. And the maintenance on those ambulances are tough. You're not driving it to church and back on Sundays. These things are getting rode hard and put away wet. So due to the amount of specialized equipment that are on these units, there's not one shop that can fix everything. You've got to take it to specialized areas. So that means we take 2 people out of service. We're going to take the unit to Omaha or Lincoln, and then 2 people to bring it back. And then when it's done, 2 more people. So we got guys out of service for 4 to 8 hours, just taking a truck out of service. That's half our crew sometimes. So we need a little help. That's what we're saying. We need a little bit of help to help sustain this. But here's the other issue. The group that we're talking about here, these people are not wired to ask for help. They're not wired to ask for money. So that's a challenge. We will greatly accept these benefits, this legislation, but they're going to be limited in their participation because they don't want to be the person that goes out and say, I want your money. They're not going to do that. We're going to rely on some of the public officials and others to make that case for them. Mills County is unique. Several years ago, the Emergency Service Association was established by a group of forward-looking individuals who could see that this bonding of EMS personnel and fire personnel has some merit, and it's been working well. They're very active. comprised of all the emergency service units in the county, including the county board and law enforcement. They meet every other month. And again, the supervisors are on our roster. This group is asking that when you guys move forward with this, rely on their commitment, their expertise in your decision-making process. We're asking you to go to these people for direction because they have been doing it. They know the route and they know what's going on out there. Selection of members for the advisory board. We're encouraging you to rely on the people that have been doing this already. They're doing a good job. We want to move forward with the legislation, but whether it passes or not, they're our foundation. They're the people that are going to be here if the legislation passes or fails. So we've got to make sure they get support. Please include them. And on another note, this is not a panacea. If this legislation passes, you're not going to have 24/7 paramedics all over the county. It's just not going to happen. But you're going to be able to sustain some of the services that we have and shore up some of these areas that need assistance. So I come to you with this information because a lot of it does not reach out to the public, and I want to be aware of it. But I am here with the Emergency Service Association and Silver City Rescue. Any questions for me?
Pat, do you have anything to add?
No, I agree with what he said. Like I said, I don't think people realize the cost that's involved with running services, the training, the equipment, and insurance. Yeah, we do bill for insurance, but I'll tell you, just as an example, you may bill $2,000. The insurance company, you're probably going to walk away with $150 off of that ambulance. Like I said, with cardiac monitors and everything else you have to have in there, it's not accounting the drugs that you have to have. We're miles away from a hospital. Out of 99 counties, we're one of the few that does not have one.
One of two.
Yeah. So
That don't have a
we're-
hospital.
We're sitting here, we're going back and forth to Council Bluffs, Omaha, taking critical patients. And, you know, I've got 3 ambulances and there's times where all 3 of them are out. And I'm having John come in and back us out. Or I got 2 out and he's coming in because of staffing. Volunteers, your average volunteers, 3 to 5 years. It's getting harder and harder to keep them. They want to spend time with their families. I've been doing this for 30 years and I get that. You miss a lot of important events. Just the training that goes into it and keeping everybody certified on top of all the other requirements that we have to follow. A lot of stuff with reporting. There's a lot of things that go into this and I just don't think a lot of people don't really understand. That's why I have an open door policy down at my station. You get a hold of me, come down, I'll show you how my organization's ran and I'll show you how we do. I'll explain everything to you, the cost of everything. And like you said, ambulance, Glenwood was fortunate enough that we've got a new one coming. It's going to replace one that has over 200,000 miles on it. Now, when you're thinking about you're having a heart attack or you're having some other type of medical emergency in the back of an ambulance, you're riding to the hospital on an ambulance that has over 200,000 miles on it. Not a whole lot of really, I guess, you're taking a leap of faith. That ambulance is breaking down. We keep ours maintained, but with the ant miles that we put on a day, we can go back and forth to Joliet 3 or 4 times a day. We average about 5 calls a day. We're setting about 1,530 calls combined for fire and EMS a year. Already since the first of the year, we're at 400 calls. Just a day. So we have the majority of the population, we have the interstate, we have a lot of territory to cover. But I have 7 full-time people and 3 part-time, and I back it up with volunteers. And it's hard sometimes to find. We usually have 2 to 3 of us on. I'm the working chief, so I do run calls. I do treat patients. I drive to the hospital. So, you know, I try to make do with what I got, but sometimes with our call volume, it's just hard. I said, you're just not getting volunteers like you used to. That's going nationwide. It's just not here in Iowa. They see it all over the place. We just don't have the numbers of people who want to do this anymore for free. They want something.
Well, and it's tough because the the kind of change in demographic when it comes to not only across the nation, but our county particular. You know, I'll say for Malvern, for instance, we used to have people who lived there, worked there. Now they live there, but they work in Omaha. So come 2 o'clock in the afternoon, how can they respond to a call when they're in Omaha? And I know that's problems that a lot of rural communities have. Now, John, you're a township trustee, right?
Correct.
What are the limitations of a township trustee providing funding to EMS services? I mean, there's some people saying that we could provide EMS with the funding necessary just from townships and cities, but I don't see you guys or cities being able to get enough money to be able to do that. And that's why we need the specific county EMS levy. Would you
Correct.
kind of expand on that a little bit?
Townships are responsible for fire protection only. Cemeteries, border and boundary disputes, public buildings. That's what the taxes come in for, just like if I present our budget, there's only so many things that you can tax. Dovetail on what Matt says, people who receive insurance money for that ambulance is what we look for. We're not looking to gouge anybody, but we have a problem with people keeping that money. Now, I got $5,000 worth of bills sitting on my desk right now that people have gotten the money back and they just kept it. And so that's a deficit that we're trying to make up.
I guess one other instance I want to say, I think it's important to remember that the EMS tax levy could benefit everyone in the county, not just specific areas. Somebody mentioned to me that they live in an area where Tabor Fire and Rescue serves their area. And so what's the benefit of an EMS tax levy when they get Tabor Fire and Rescue? So I'm sure you guys have heard of it. Richard made it, Travis, an incident literally today, 2:20 Tabor Fire and Rescue was paged to the Tabor Manor for a medical call. 2:29 Tabor Rescue was paged for the second time, and Sydney Rescue was paged for the first time. 2:31 Hamburg Rescue was paged for the first time. 2:34 Malvern Rescue was paged. And at this time, from 2:20 up until 2:34, there was no response from any Fremont County EMS. 2:40 Malvern Rescue was on the way to the Tabor Manor. So even if, you know, you may live in an area where somebody else can get to you, let's say you live on the east side and you say, well, Red Oak will get to me, or you live on the south side and you say, well, Tabor will get to me. There are incidents, whether it be a lack of volunteers, whether it be they're already on a call, whether it be they don't have the money, where they're not going to be able to get to you. So it is increasingly vital that we pass the tax, because if you think about it, the Tabor Rescue to the Tabor Manor is 0.8 miles. It's 3 minutes. From Malvern to Tabor Manor, it's about 10 miles, right? So that's the difference. You got to rely on some of the rules that we have in our county to go to Tabor, to go to Pot, to go to Montgomery County. And then when that happens, then we have nobody here serving our people. So we can't rely on other counties to provide our service. We have to rely on ourselves to do it. So I think it's a great idea, and I appreciate the work that you both are putting into it. And I think another misconception that a lot of people have, except from Glenwood. I'll ask you this, John, do you get paid?
No.
Keith, do you get paid? Vince, do you get paid? And do you get paid? These are volunteer organizations. They do not get paid. They're not asking for your money. They won't get paid if the tax passes. What the money's going to go to is to support the people who are volunteering to save your lives. In Iowa law, there is nothing that says if you get on the phone and your dad's having a heart attack at the grill on Father's Day, or your son is 3 years old, fell into a swimming pool, there's nothing that says you have to have EMS services. You can call 911 to the dispatch, get to Travis, and Travis will try to page the areas, but if nobody's around you, nobody's coming. And that's why it's so vital to pass this levy, because if we do not, we're going to get into an incident where the majority of people in our community do not have access to emergency medical services. I am not a fan of wasteful spending. I think a lot of people understand that, but it has not, is not, and never will be a waste of tax dollars to save people's lives. And I think all of us can agree on that. So I appreciate the work that both of you do and you folks back there. Thank you for that.
Jack, I just might want to add something for Matt. He's got a lot of volunteers there.
Yes,
Yep.
yes,
We
yeah.
do have,
yeah.
we've got about
Yeah.
15, 16 volunteers on top.
in Macedonia, Iowa, which is straight north of Henderson. The two people that were working up there said enough's enough. There's no more service out of Macedonia for Henderson. So here's Henderson, Iowa, sitting on an island. Meadow close enough, or, some other vicinity, Silver City, it's still a long ways
For
to get there.
Henderson's Rescue Squad.
So it doubles up on us, folks.
It's concerning. We have to do something. We have to do something. So,
Well, thank you guys for inviting us.
Thank you.
We'll
Thank
get
you.
our
Thank you
message
for
out.
coming. I appreciate it, guys.
Yes.
So after that, then we'll get back to you.
You want a motion on this?
That'd be great.
Just discussion. You can stay Stay right there.
We're moving.
Public hearing. And since we're past 6:30, we have to have a public hearing for a budget amendment number 2 for fiscal year 2025. It's important to mention that this budget amendment is not increasing taxes for this fiscal year. This is just the funds that we already have, putting it into places where it's needed. So that's all that this budget amendment is for, putting it into the line items where it's needed. So if there's a motion to open up the public hearing, I'll accept it.
I would make a motion to open the public hearing at 6:35.
I will second that motion. We'll do a roll call vote, please.
Sayers,
Aye.
Crouch,
Aye.
Why don't you talk us through a little bit with what the budget amendment is actually doing, please?
budget amendment just amends our budget, does not add any tax dollars to, we don't collect additional tax dollars. Usually budget amendments are done when you maybe receive revenue you don't plan on or expenses come up that weren't budgeted for. So for this one, we have, the sheriff's office received a grant to purchase a UTV. The clerk of court had some additional expenses they weren't planning on. We did amend for public health to include some increases in some grant fund pass-through funds that were not included on the original budget. That would not be adding any additional county money to their budget. It's all pass-through or grant money or revenue from client charges. Also we received the insurance reimbursement for in last fiscal year. And it was for the Pony Creek area for conservation, and they're gonna use it this year to do some repairs. So we have to move that money from last year to this year so they can use it. We also had an increase in our property insurance and service contract that we did. And then we have a couple TIFs, and one of the TIFs didn't get put on the state form, so I had to add it to the state form so we could pay out the money that they got for that. And then also we have an agreement with the State of Glenwood and Western Iowa Networks, and I had to include revenues from that and also a payment to the city as part of our agreement. And that's everything included in the current budget amendment.
Thank you, Amber. Okay, as this is a public hearing, is there any comments from the public about the budget amendment and what Amber just stated, where the changes are being made with this amendment? Any comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll have a motion to close the
Make a
public hearing.
motion to close the public hearing at 6:40.
I will second that motion. There's a motion to close the public hearing for the budget amendment number 2 for fiscal year 2025 at 6:40. Roll call vote, please.
Crouch, Sayers,
Aye. Okay, consideration formal action on the actual budget amendment.
Resolution 2508 is the budget, approves the budget amendment and also does the appropriations of the groups. That way, when the state comes back, they can see where we put the money, where we say we're gonna put the money.
Thank you.
We have a motion to consider.
Motion to approve it.
Move down one. I'll make a motion to approve resolution 2508 appropriating funds from budget amendment number 2.
I will second that motion. There is a motion and a second to approve resolution 25-08 appropriating funds from budget amendment number 2. Roll call vote, please.
May I ask you to amend your your or your motion to approve the budget amendment and the appropriations, please.
Yes. You'll put that in the minutes, right?
Got it?
Considering the amendment, there is a motion and a second to approve the budget amendment and resolution 25-08 appropriating funds from budget amendment number 2. Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Crouch,
Yes.
Saber.
Yes. Motion passes. Thank you, Amber. All right, John, now we can get back to you, sir. Okay. John Stacy, discussion formal action on the Oak Township Grant fiscal sponsor.
Well, since we don't have any money, we're looking for grants. And in order to maintain national standards and FBA standards, it requires us to have a self-contained breathing apparatus for every scene on fire truck. We've added a pumper tanker to our fleet. We're trying to make that up with the standards. So in order to receive some funds, we apply to the Jackalo's Public Safety. So this will be a pass-through. If the grant goes through, then the check comes to the county and it comes.
We've done that before.
So you just need approval from us to be your grant sponsor.
Do you want a motion?
Yes, please.
Motion to approve Oak Township Grant fiscal sponsor, which would be Mills County.
I'll second that motion. There's a motion and a second for Mills County to be the Oak Township Grant fiscal sponsor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, John.
You're welcome.
Let me know if you need anything from me on that.
Lonnie Millsap. Your time.
That's good. This EMT tax levy. Now, is that taxes done on our taxes, more for the taxpayer coming out to help? I mean, they do a wonderful job, don't get me wrong. I think it's wonderful we have them volunteers, even the ones get paid. But is this something that's gonna be increased for us? Is that what you're saying, if it's passed?
If it's passed, yeah. Well, increased for us too, right?
Well,
So
that's-
all
I mean-
taxpayers in Mills County. So
Yes,
how it's gonna be set up with an EMS levy, you can either do up to, doesn't mean you have to do it, you can do up to 75 cents per thousand of
Okay.
property taxes, or you can have a 1% local option income tax. Now, we are not sure where we're going to go with that, whether we do the local option income tax or we do the local option sales tax. Excuse me, not local option sales tax or the property tax. But how the EMS levy works down the line is each year, the EMS advisory council that we set up will be able to decide where the expenditures are going and then how much the levy is for that specific year. So even if, this gets passed in the November general election and it has to be passed by 60% approval, even if it gets passed by 60% approval, next year, we may see a property tax of 75 cents per thousand. The year after, we could see a property tax of 30 cents per thousand. It's just depending on what funding is going to be needed for that upcoming year.
okay. That helps. All right, this CSR to the solar ordinance, is it in place for our county? Is there an ordinance for solar per se?
It's not in place as of yet. I'm going to give you a little bit of my beliefs when it comes to the CSR2 ordinance. So we have to do something in Mills County to protect our productive farm ground, right? We see across the nation, there are 2,000 acres of farm ground that are destroyed every day. Mills County agriculture produces over $623 million worth of sales every year and employs close to 1,500 of our residents, our voters. And so that's why it is increasingly vital for the CSR2 ordinance. And what the CSR2 ordinance will do is it will say that to be able to get a conditional use permit, to be able to build a large industrial sized solar farm, this will not apply to solar on your homes. It will not apply to solar on your business. This is hundreds or thousands of acres worth of solar. These are the large industrial sites. So what it will do is it's gonna say that you have to have a certain CSR score of this or below. So, and some backstory on CSR. So CSR is already used now. It is used by realtors when they're selling land. They'll put the CSR score on it. It's used by auctioneers, it's used by farmers, it's used by pesticide companies, it's used by a whole bunch of different people in different industries. And what CSR is, it's the Corn Sustainability Rating. And so it takes into effect the type of soil, the particle of the soil, the drainage, the slope, the erosion, how often it floods, and expert judgment on the soil. And so there are already existing soil maps for all land in Mills County using CSR2. And so what this ordinance will do is just make sure that these big hundreds or 1,000 acres solar farms aren't gonna go on the high productive ground, and the high productive ground is gonna stay farm ground for people who are trying to get into agriculture, for farmers who are already there. I'm a young guy. I have a lot of concerns because I can tell you, I have friends, I have family members who want to be farmers. You have rising input costs, you have rising machinery costs, and you have rising land costs. And so all that's happening when we're allowing these Mid-America or some other major multi-billion-dollar corporation to come in and buy agricultural land, it's taking more land out of production, right? Which is going to drop how much we have in food, but it's also making it so that farmers who are young can't get into the business, because when there's less land available, it drives up the price of all the other land. That's why it's so important to have the CSR2 ordinance. And the Planning and Zoning Commission will be voting on the CSR2 ordinance next week at 6 p.m. here on Tuesday. So that's a little backstory about that, what CSR2 is in my personal opinion.
I will back up Mr. Sayers here. The National Organization of Counties is battling this in every state. They're trying to get something done across the nation, kind of make it state to state instead of having individuality, but everyone's aware of it. North and South Carolina is losing farm ground by the thousands of acres. There's a picture, I don't know, it was in the paper where it showed this big field of solar farm and stuff, on a thing. So we have to have some kind of energy, but I think there's places to put it. That's my feelings on it.
So it would stop one in Mills County.
It would stop them from going on the high productive ground. They could still put them on low productive ground, but they wouldn't be able to build them on high productive ground.
Do you still have a budget shortfall?
Discuss that.
For our current year,
Whatever that $162,000.
for the debt service levy, is that what you're talking about?
Well, this is just people different talking about
That's
the right ones we're talking. This is
Debt service.
Oh, yeah, so that is going to be covered by some existing funds in our debt service.
So it's taken care of now. So there's nobody at fault, everybody got paid.
Everybody's being paid, yes.
Okay, assistance.
Now we're on a general discussion, so assistance.
Now, come on. Well, they told me that they didn't understand me when I called and what I asked for.
I didn't understand the note that was passed to me.
At one time, I've asked this once before. I don't think Jack was here yet. At one time, we did not have an assistant county attorney, or a county engineer. Right? At one time, we didn't have one.
It's been a long time ago. We had an assistant 2 engineer before Kevin. Richard Parks was assistant engineer.
So we've always had one.
He was employed for total of 20 some years, right?
Right. So we've always had an assistant. I did not know that. Okay. Well, I was gonna just say maybe they ought to go part-time if we have needed extra money in the budget. They could go part-time. And I'm not referring to anybody's name. I grew up in Glenwood. I have nothing against personalities. I'm just asking about jobs and job performances. Do you think it's better that we have assistant?
Absolutely.
How come?
For us, because there was when I started, Richard Parks retired, and so there was a big break there, not having one. And since we have hired, just the amount of work and things that we can get done is just way higher. I guess a lot of it is a project manager over the tech. So like right now, our construction projects, I don't think, unless you do it, a lot of people don't really understand the amount of work that goes into it, the documentation, paperwork, and especially trying to train them up, having an assistant over them that can manage the different projects at once, and then also be looking forward ahead to get these projects coming down the line. It opens it up for me to work on more future-based things instead of just what's right on my plate.
So do you think our county roads are better?
Yeah, I absolutely do.
I'm not sure everybody agrees.
Well, you're not gonna make everybody happy.
Well, no, I know that. I've been in enough positions. I already know that part.
I'll say from my standpoint, and this is minuscule to what Jake brought up, but I will say, just from my view, we have Jake coming into a Board of Supervisors meeting every week. And there's been a few times now, since I've been in office, that Jake is either sick, he's on vacation, he has something going on, family event, and then the assistant county engineer comes in. That way the process is run smoothly because it all has to come to the Board of Supervisors. So even in that regard, there is a need to have somebody at the county engineer's office who can be able
Does it have to
to
be
go through that
full-time?
stuff. Well,
Definitely.
Well, you gotta answer to them besides me, so.
Yeah, I mean, I'll answer to anybody, absolutely.
I mean, that's,
Full-time.
it's answered to taxpayers, plus you're answering to the Board of Supervisors to make sure that he's doing what he's supposed to do. I do have a comment though about, do we, maintain the road that from Nishna School that goes in the back way to Emerson?
Old 34,
Does it pass the Indian Museum?
yeah,
It's awful. I drove it the other night.
I know it is.
It's terrible.
It's on the 5-year plan, fiscal year 2029.
Oh, I heard that again about the 5-year plan. I heard that about my paving.
It's in the 4th year of the 5-year plan. Moving
Okay,
up.
all right. The Assistant County Attorney. I have a problem with the county attorney and the assistant having their own law firm and still being for the county attorneys. I would think that would be a conflict of interest when they're both out of the same law firm and they work for us and you. Comment?
The assistant county attorney works for
Sean. Her name's on the window.
Don, is the county attorney.
Yes.
And you're saying Don that works for her.
She works as our assistant attorney, plus she works for Sean out of the firm.
And that is because she is a part-time county attorney.
But I
She can
still
have-
think it would be a conflict of interest. No, you don't agree to that?
There, if I remember correctly, there are only certain types of law that Dawn and Deshawn can practice, since they also do their private practice. If I remember that correctly, is that right,
Right.
Richard?
Yep.
So they wouldn't be able to technically like sue the county and then represent the county. But my understanding is like they could do marriages and
What if
things
I
like
want to
that.
sue you, can she represent me?
No.
Well, that wouldn't be fair because she might be my lawyer already.
You can find another lawyer, she's a lawyer.
Okay. I just still disagree with that, but anyway. And I asked about who took care of the tornado warning when there's all clear, and they informed me that it's already been done a long time ago, that we never did any all clear, so I thank you for telling me that. I think you ought to go a little bit about what was on KMA about the sheriff's salary. I think a lot of people heard it. You need to kind of clarify what that was, if you would for me. please.
There was a law passed in 2021 called the Back to Blue Law. And a part of the Back to Blue Law stated that sheriff's salaries have to be comparable to cities, police chiefs of the same size, and also has to be comparable to salaries in the Iowa State Patrol. So no matter what, this year, we had to follow that law, and there would have been a major increase, no matter what the number is. That's the law. The state passed it. It's an unfunded mandate that we have to pay our sheriffs a certain amount of money. There was a disagreement on the interpretation of the law. I said 120. Bonnie and Richard said 130, but no matter what, it was gonna have to be quite a substantial increase because we have to follow the law that was passed by the state.
That's fine. I just wanted you to clear it up because there were a couple people that called me and I thought, well, we might as well clear that up. It's on KMA. Good grief.
Oh, I know.
Greg's gotten a lot of calls too.
Well, thank you for clearing it up. Thanks for having, and you spelled my name wrong.
Is there anything else,
Did I miss
Bonnie?
an L?
Well, not right this minute. I can't do anything else, I guess. Isn't that enough till next month?
Is it MILLSH?
It's LL. Thank you so much.
I'll make a note. I'll put it on my.
Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you, Bonnie.
Up next, Tad McDowell and Sarah Curry, budget discussion. You can come up here. Is this your first time?
No, you know, that. First time you know.
Yeah.
I got a little bit of information I want to share about you.
Dan, so I can chase them easier.
Sarah, I have something to talk about. Do you have stuff, do you want me to go?
Why don't you just go?
Okay, that's fine. Don't hesitate to just. hop in
I
if you
won't.
need to. Okay. So everybody else doesn't have this. I'm just gonna run through the highlights here. I've got problems with the taxation level in this county, as most people know. I also have some concerns with transparency and communication. And so let's hit up the taxation level concerns first. Right now, Mills County is ranked 67 out of 99 for the highest tax rates in the state. It's on the Department of Management website. We rank 71 out of 99 for the highest property tax revenues in the state. We have the 53rd highest population. Okay, this afternoon, I collected a list of all the Iowa counties, their population, and the amount of money raised through property taxes last year. And I gave you that list. It's the last 3 pages of that document there. I basically did that so I could calculate a per capita number. Okay, Mills County ranks 81 out of 99 in per capita property tax collections out of the state. We're collecting $815 in property taxes per resident. There are counties as low as $300, and there's counties as high as $1,090. Actually, there's a couple outliers there. I know, it's just a couple of those outliers, that is stuff. At any rate, point is, we're 81 out of 99. That is really high. And we have high property taxes in a state known for high property taxes. I don't think that's a recipe for success. I think we should strive to decrease our property tax level to near the median value in the state. The Glenwood School District did it. The county should be doing it. I also understand that not every county is the same. There's different challenges, right? You brought up, we're one of 2 counties in the state without a hospital. That's gonna impact things. There's other things, right? We're running the Missouri River. We're gonna have, every county has their challenges, whatever they are. And yet, when you put them all on the list, we still turn out 81 out of 99. So I will say, there's no one in this room more responsible for this than you, Richard. You've been on this board for a long time. You are responsible more than anybody else. Lonnie isn't here tonight, but you could own that with him. So I have 3 questions. They're in bold in front of you. Were you aware that Mills County taxes its citizens at such a high level on a per capita basis? Can you explain why we need to tax at such a high level? And do you support lowering our overall property tax burden? If so, what are we gonna do about it?
I'll speak on part of that when you say citizens such as high level. Our biggest problem in Mills County, we have nothing else to tax. Do you see any large businesses in here? We can't seem to anchor one, or yes, we have some on the bottom. We've got A&M Green Power, we've got the racetrack, we've got Harley Davidson, Bungie, 3, 4 big outfits that pay other taxes. Most counties have more than that. You get to looking around at all the counties, they have money coming from other entities than just personal property.
I would argue that there's a whole slew of counties in northern Iowa that have less than we do. There's just nothing up there. So what's up there? I mean, again, I'm just throwing a dart right at a county. We can go look. There's not a lot there. So again, do you support lowering our overall property tax burden?
Yes.
Okay. What are you gonna do about it, Richard?
Well, if we go ahead and keep lowering things, there will be less service.
Mhm.
Is that all right with all you folks? If I remember right, back when we had an ice storm here in December, man, it was hell or high water. Man, you gotta get out here. You gotta come save us people. You're living in the country, folks. We don't run a 24-hour service and stuff, but we did get the crews out, got them out, took care of the people, fine. But that would go away. And I know that we don't go 24/7 as a service to never have, as long as I've been on the board or even before then. So we cut personnel, that's the next thing. What else is there to cut other than personnel?
So,
You know
Richard,
that as well as I do, Tad.
if I were in your seat, here's what I would do. I would go on a benchmarking expedition across the state. How is it that other counties are doing it? How are they providing EMS services? We are 81 out of 99. Are we to say that all these other counties don't have EMS without passing an additional tax? Yeah, I'm sure they do, I'm guessing. I haven't been out there in a while. They haven't, I mean, I don't know how other
Comment on
counties are
that
doing
if
it
you'd like.
because I haven't looked at every county. I live here and this is what I'm concerned with.
So in specific with the EMS tax, there are a number of counties who have passed it. Sarah, do you know what the number is?
22.
22 counties that have passed the EMS tax. From my understanding, going with ISAC, there are other counties that either had the tax on the ballot or they are working their way towards getting it on the ballot, where, you know, they made some misstep and didn't do the process correctly to have it on the ballot. And what you see in counties like that, where you have a centralized EMS service that provides from one city that would provide EMS to the entire county. So with instances like that, you know, you would see response times go up, and that's not what I want to see in Mills County. And I know I have talked to you numerous times about essential services. And part of my view on the Board of Supervisors is moving towards funding essential services, things that are needed. That would include sheriff's office, like getting a new deputy when it's needed. That would include the roads crew. That would include dispatch, jail. That would also include EMS. I am anti-tax, I'm anti-spending. I've been filibustering, my own version of filibustering, a position for the treasurer's office for the last 2 months now. A position that has been there for many years. It was an open position. I'm filibustering it, not allowing it to go to advertisement because I have said to both Lonnie and Richard that I want spending cuts in other ways. But there are things that we have to do to make sure that our essential services that people expect, that everyone utilizes, are still there. So that's my view when it comes to the EMS tax and what other counties are doing. And the ramifications of not having an EMS tax.
I support having storm units.
I know you do.
I do. We have money elsewhere, okay? And I know this isn't the school, and I know they've also lowered their burden the past couple years. But a community only has so much capacity to be taxed. Okay? And if one entity is going to absorb too much, then it's not going to leave much for other necessary things. So the question is, as a community, do we want EMS or do we want to invest more in our sports teams or whatever else we're investing in? That probably isn't actually that important. It's just a thought, except for everybody else to make up their minds on. We all get a vote here, right?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Give me a minute, Sarah.
Tad asked me to join him this evening, so I've just brought some illustrations. This is per capita. That's just per capita spending. And like we know, right, if you're in Burlington or Dubuque and you have flooding every year, you're gonna have more expenditures in certain areas. So there's really no perfect bullseye of this is what a county should be spending. So really kind of the benchmark is per capita, but also like the statewide average. And so you can see that Mills County is above the statewide average in every single major category of the budget, except for government services to residents. We beat the statewide average by $1. So it's just something to think about. It's a measure. I'm not saying it's perfect, but I talk to people across the state every day about their property taxes. And I don't know of another county that's above the statewide average in every single category. I'm not saying it's there. I just haven't seen that. Most of the time it's, capital projects is out of whack and that's what they're going after. So it's just interesting that they're all like that. The other thing, I pulled all of, and I had my notes and the kids lost them, so I apologize. These are all of the budgets that are currently on the Department of Management's website. And I think some of the frustration from people I've been hearing in the county is that it's not that we're trying to, what, honey? Oh, you're gonna come sit with me? Okay. It's not that they're trying to say, we want you to cut here, cut here, cut here. They just want to pay less taxes and they expect the supervisors, we elected you guys to make those decisions. And so it's hard to understand where you're coming from if we don't know where the money's going. And I understand, like Amber's new, you guys inherited a lot of complicated scenarios and situations and stuff. It's just these counties do have their budgets up. So that way it's easier for taxpayers to see, oh, it's increasing in public safety or it's increasing in county environment. 13 of these counties are cutting actual like property tax dollars. Cass County cutting the most, 22% dollar property tax decrease. So it is happening. Again, I don't know the specific details of every single one of these counties, but they're finding savings.
I can give you like Cass County. I talked to Steve Byer about going back to the EMS tax levy. Part of the reason why it's lowering is because they have a hospital tax in Cass County. And so they lowered the hospital tax to make up for the EMS tax. So I'm sure that part of the calculation, it's probably not all, but that's part of the calculation.
So, and this is just county. I understand there's other taxing entities within the county, but if you flip over, I added mills in there so you can see, we're not in a TAMA situation, thank goodness. But and I know that Lonnie said that it wouldn't be the whole 6.6%. And this is just countywide. I didn't include rural in this. It's just something to think about just to see kind of where we are on par with stuff. Fremont County, they've already done theirs. They proposed a 2.5% property tax increase year over year. So just something to think about, just something to see, just to benchmark yourself, like what Tad was saying, like you want to see where you are comparative to other people, and comparing ourselves to Omaha is not accurate. It's other Iowa counties and what other Iowa counties are having to spend on. So just food for thought, just to think about. I'm not going to come in here and say, out of fund 1100 cut line item 13. That's not my job. That's what you guys' job is. I'm just looking at the big picture to say, why are we out of whack? Why are we doing this? Mommy talking.
If I could speak really quick, our budget should be up. It might be even up tonight. I'm working on getting it proposed. I had to have them set these public hearings so I could propose it, so it should be up tonight or tomorrow. And then also, I know that I've talked to the board about starting meetings this month for next year, so we can really start to look at where the money, it just was a short amount of time for us to figure out what's going on. But I know that in the plan is to start to meet monthly and say, hey, where can we cut? Where can we work together as a county? And the other thing to think of too is we're waiting to see what the state's gonna do with property tax. Because they're talking about doing some really crazy, I wouldn't say crazy things, but just different things that it may look completely different this time next year. We have no idea what everything's going to be.
And you weren't here for that, and Jack, you weren't here for that, but watching House File 718 introduced in March, and we saw the writing on the wall, there were a handful of counties that jacked up
I
their
was there
rate.
for the city.
Well, yeah,
And
yes,
I
you remember
knew,
that.
yeah.
So there were a handful of counties, there's 936 cities, so I don't have them all memorized as well, but that they like jacked up the rate because they knew that 718 was gonna ratchet it down. So it's just that I see it all over the state, like the trust level just isn't there, and it's not personal towards either one of you two. Oh, thank you. It's just that if you have the opportunity to and I get it, it's just, that's the way it is. So when Tad calls me or other people in the county call me, I try to focus on the numbers and what's there and benchmarking, and I try not to make assumptions because I'm not sitting in your seat. But I just see what like Tama County's in a really bad situation. For those that don't know, Tama County's bankrupt. They had to take all the money from their 911 office just to finish the fiscal year. Another county spent all their COVID money twice. and they didn't know it. So I mean, we're not in as bad a situation as other counties, but I know we can do better because there are other ones out there doing similar jobs, so. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anything further, Tad?
I do have one last section I can make it quick.
Go ahead.
Regarding transparency and communication, I think things have gotten better, don't get me wrong. But at the budget hearing last week, many people expressed a concern about not having a line item budget. Right, so we go to this budget hearing every year, the max tax levy hearing, and we just have a bottom line number, right? And it's calculated somehow, some way, I don't know. It gets added up somewhere.
And I can speak to that as well, if you'd like me to real quick.
I-
After you're done.
It's okay, yeah, let me just get it out and then I'll make my point and then I'll stop talking. So I did ask Amber for a line item budget before the hearing. She said it was gonna be done until in between that hearing and the second hearing. I believe it's incumbent upon the Board of Supervisors to proactively communicate with the community, just like it is the school boards. Again, I had the same conversation with our school. Just as I told school leaders, proactive communication allows you to explain what is going on and you get to control the narrative. By just throwing out, this general budget number, which is what that mailer is, we don't really know where the money's going. So they're kind of alluded to that. It would be really beneficial for everybody to have more transparency into that process before that first hearing. So we can see how, I know this starts in January, maybe earlier, based on what you just said.
I was there earlier, but yeah.
And it gets finalized in April. So the questions I have down here in bold, I know you don't have a copy of those, Amber, but at least you're on there. Will the board and auditor commit to being more transparent with the budget information in the future to include a proposed line item budget when they publicly announce the max levy hearing next year? And can we post that online for public review along with the public notice prior to that?
I agree with you, Tad, that we, the board or the auditor's office, we should have had figures for you people last year when we had a public hearing. I mean, we're talking in the blue, or wherever you want to say, you're asking questions, we have nothing to back it up, we have nothing to show you. I've always thought that figures should be put out, right or wrong. I mean, we can always go down. I totally agree with you.
As long as it's feasible and we can do it, I have no issue with it.
She may be the one to answer that mostly.
I always feel like the state makes us do things backwards. They want us to have a public hearing on a property tax. And then sometimes we go back in and backfill our budget a little bit. So I think in the future going forward, we could do it a little differently. And the part of it, I didn't have a lot of time, I was learning on the job. So I'd like to be a lot further along, and at the city, I was a lot further along. County budget's a little bit more complex than the city, so it took a little bit of learning curve. So my hope is that, like I said, if we start now for next fiscal year, this process goes a lot easier and everybody's more involved.
I do want to commend the county because you can see on my sheet, maybe it's a precursor to what my research is going to say. Mommy's talking. Okay, tell him you can play. Thank you for having the hearing at 6 o'clock at night. Most of these are having them at 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. So doing it after hours to allow people to come to the public hearing, that's appreciated.
Don't you like the night meetings for Board of Supervisors too?
Oh, look at all these folks.
I do.
Well, I know you do, Bonnie. Anything else?
I'm just here supporting Tad.
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
I appreciate
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's see, we're down here at the bottom. Any new business, Sir Richard?
Not this time.
I have no
Motion to adjourn.
further business. Yes. There's a motion to adjourn at 7:12. I will second that motion. Motion and a second to adjourn at 7:12 PM. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, opposed. Motion passes. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you, Ted, for your presentation.
You don't get to say that. I wanted to.